Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Around the Big Ten podcast. I'm Mark Givler, Chip Minnick joining me. We are down to our second to last 2025 Big Ten team preview, team schedule breakdown. It's been a West Coast run here the last couple with USC and UCLA. We're going to stay out west. We're going to do the Washington Huskies. Spoiler alert, if you've listened to the show over the past 6 months, I've slowly but surely continually built on my I think Washington's going to be good this year type of narrative. They're a sleeper team for me in the Big Ten. Then the schedules kind of come out. I'm like, you know what? That doesn't really change anything for me. I still kind of like my view there. But, Chip, this is a team that went from playing for a national championship to losing their head coach, retooling a roster, probably losing more talent to the NFL draft in one cycle than maybe any other time in program history. Having to reload that, trying to figure out the portal, trying to stabilize high school recruiting. They have a tough season last year. Where is this program at in your mind? Let me ask you this way. If the Washington football program was a stock, are you buying at this price and assuming it's going to go up, or are you selling at this price because you're not confident the stock is going to go up?
I'm buying. I am definitely buying. I'm with you. I think the optimism is warranted. It's real. Jedd Fisch has shown he has a track record, of doing well in previous coaching stops, and the fact that you alluded to it, and we've talked about it in previous episodes. I think the way everything happened at Washington, I'm not taking shots at Kalen DeBoer, but the way that everything happened in terms of his departure and then the talent loss that was going to be coming anyway, because I think last year, the fact that Washington played as well as they did is a testimonial to not only the talent that was still there, but also to Jedd Fisch's coaching. I think year two, this is his program. This is no longer we have to kind of always do a compare and contrast between how things were. It's like, this is actually, okay, Jedd Fisch, he brought in Ryan Walters as the new defensive coordinator. I think that that's going to pay dividends on that side of the ball. I think the fact that offensively, that they have a quarterback that they're legitimately excited about, Jonah Coleman at running back. They just have a lot of really good pieces in place for the optimism. And I think that, like you said, the schedule is challenging, but it's not impossible. I think this is the kind of thing where Washington might be kind of surprising some people if they haven't really been paying attention.
I love the look of their offense this year. I think it gets back to maybe not Michael Penix's levels, but I think it's back to being really, really explosive. Will Rogers was a nice one-year stopgap, but he was limited, kind of a limited player. Did an admirable job, but I think they think they've got something with Damon Williams. I think they think he's going to be pretty special. He's certainly dynamic. He's going to give them a little bit of a different dimension. He can move. So that's going to be fun to watch. They get Denzel Boston at wide receiver, developing into one of the best receivers in the conference. And as you mentioned, Jonah Coleman at running back, I think they're pretty excited about him as well. So this looks like a return to being a really good offense that can do a lot of different things. The College Football 26 game just came out, and one of the archetypes for the coaches are in the game now. And one of the archetypes you can make when you create your coach is like program builder or whatever. Jedd Fisch is a program builder.
Yes.
He's a guy who does these types of things. He's not a guy who's been a front runner his whole career. He's had to take over some tough situations and build programs. I think he can do that at Washington. The talent out west is such that you can build, there can be more than USC and Oregon out west. Washington is an improving state for high school football. We've seen some national players come out of there the last several years. So I'm feeling pretty good about this Washington team coming into the season. Let's bring up the schedule, which I will read. It's they start off with Colorado State at home, then they host UC Davis, bye week. Then it's the Apple Cup at Washington State. Then it's home Ohio State, which is going to be all sorts of interesting. At Maryland, home Rutgers, at Michigan, home Illinois, at Wisconsin, home Purdue, at UCLA, home Oregon. Chip, just your kind of first thoughts, reaction to that schedule.
As I said a few moments ago, I think this is the kind of schedule that it's challenging, but it's not impossible. I mean, where Washington is going to kind of, I think, really start to put the pedal to the floor, so to speak, is in October. I'm expecting Washington to start out strong against Colorado State and UC Davis. The at Washington State game, I apologize for this. It's still difficult for me to think of that as a non-conference game, but that's just the reality of the conference realignment. The Ohio State game is going to be huge. Ohio State has traveled there in the past, but this is going to be the kind of atmosphere that it's going to test the Buckeyes. The fact that they've got a no matter who emerges at quarterback, this is going to be the first road game for Ohio State. So this schedule is certainly the kind of thing where if Washington goes on the road at Maryland, defeats them as I anticipate that they do, it's entirely possible Washington could be. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that Washington could be undefeated mid-October.
Yeah, I think as I look at the schedule here, like there's potholes. You know, Ohio State's a pothole. At Michigan's a pothole. Illinois, at Wisconsin, Oregon. There's 4 or 5 potholes on the schedule. But here's what I like about it. They're generally, with the exception of the Michigan and Illinois games, it's well spread out. Mm-hmm. So, like, yeah, do I love the fact for them that they're playing at Washington State and then hosting Ohio State the next week? Maybe that's not great, but they should absolutely. I know they kind of blew it last year. They should absolutely beat Washington State. I don't think there's going to be any problem getting up for either of those games back to back. They get the bye week before Washington State, so I don't think they're certainly not going to let down against Ohio State when Ohio State comes into town. That fan base has been ready for this game for a few years now. So, and then like, okay, so you got Michigan and Illinois back to back. That's tough. But then you get a bye week before you have to go to Wisconsin, and then in between Wisconsin and Oregon, you get like Purdue and UCLA. In between Ohio State and Michigan, you have Maryland, and then Rutgers has to come out to you. Like, it's not like you're like back to back to back, just like taking like haymakers. Like, you're able to really space those big games out, which I really like for them as well. So I like the layout of this. I agree with you on the Ohio State game. I've told every Ohio State fan who will listen to not put a W next to that one yet. Certainly Ohio State will be favored. Certainly I'll probably pick Ohio State to win that game, but that's not going to be a layup for the Buckeyes. It's just not. It's going to be a tough cross-country road game with an inexperienced quarterback against a team that's going to has this game circled. So that's going to be a very interesting game for them. And to your point, like, okay, even if they don't beat Ohio State, there's a very simple, in my opinion, path to 5-1. And you're going to be favored against Purdue. You're going to be favored against UCLA. I think you're going to be favored at Wisconsin even. So that would give you 8. And then it's like, okay, Michigan's beatable. It's not like Michigan's, a top 5 team this year on paper. They're more of a back half the top 25 team. Illinois is good, but that's at home. And even Oregon, who's phenomenal, that's at home. I mean, there's a path here to really make some noise, I think, in the Big Ten. Chip, is there a key game for you on this schedule that we've kind of talked about with some of the West Coast teams?
Okay, I'm going to say mine, but I thought
take my game again. I know. As soon as I was talking, I'm like, I told him I was going to get to go first.
So I'm going to give you
again, Chip.
Okay, I'm going to say, to me, the big game, when I look at the Washington schedule, the big game for me is that October 25th game when they host Illinois. Simply because the expectations for Illinois, we've talked about it on previous episodes. We're going to see what kind of a team are those expectations warranted or not. But I think the fact that Illinois is supposed to be a good team, we've been talking about in positive terms about Washington in year 2 of Jed Fish's tenure. I think if Washington comes out of that game with a win against Illinois, that can give them positive momentum for the remainder of the season.
All right. We get to finally.
Okay, good.
Discussion here. I think it's a week before that. I think it's at Michigan.
Okay.
And here's why. I think the first 6 games, I think there's a very, I don't want to say very, like, I don't want to disrespect Washington State or even Rutgers, but they should be 5-1, in my opinion. This is a team that should start 5-1. But they could be 5-1. I've said this before. I think I said this about USC in terms of their start. They could be 5-1, and we could not really still know what they are yet. Because at that point, okay, you won the 5 games you should have won, and then you lost the game you should have lost. So what exactly are you? Michigan will tell us what they are because that's a road game too. They're going to fly out cross country to Michigan. If they go in there and beat Michigan, the narrative goes from Washington's improving in second year over Jed Fish to Washington is now in the Big Ten championship game race. Washington is now in the college football playoff race. Because if you're 6-1 after beating Michigan, and we assume that you can beat Wisconsin, Purdue, and UCLA, you're now at 9 wins, and Illinois and Oregon are at home. If you can win one of those home games, you're in the playoff. So I think the Michigan game's the big one, because if they lose that, it's kind of dashed. Like, okay, can you come back next week and beat Illinois at home? Sure, but then you've really got to like run the table, including beating Oregon, winning at Wisconsin. Like, you're really in a bind, I think, to make the college football playoff if you lose to Michigan. But if you beat Michigan and then you get Illinois at home the next week, you come back home. It's a tough road trip for Illinois. Your fan base is going to be electric for that game because they're going to know you're in the playoff race now. And it's going to be a whole different vibe around that program, in my opinion. So I think that's the key game here. And but there's no doubt that back-to-back with Michigan and Illinois is going to shape whether this is simply a bowl team that's trying to improve in year 2 under Jed Fish, or if this is a team that can actually compete, for one of the top couple of spots in the Big Ten and ultimately a playoff berth. So, Chip, best and worst case scenarios.
All right. I'm going to say best case. I mean, you've already talked about it. I'm going to say best case scenario, this team is in the playoffs. So let's just say that's 10 wins. I'm going to say worst case scenario is, let's say that they lose not only to Ohio State, they lose at Michigan, Illinois game, because since we're anticipating Illinois to be good. And then I'm going to say probably worst case scenario is this team probably is 7-5, that they stumble down the road, possibly at UCLA or at home against Oregon. So I definitely think the talent and the coaching is there for them to be much closer to the best case scenario than the worst case scenario that I just described.
Yeah, we're not far off. I agree with you. I think 10-2 is the best case. They're fully capable of upsetting Ohio State at home or Oregon at home, but you got to figure they're probably not going to win both of those. There's a better chance they lose both of those than win both of those. But even if they would split, I mean, they're still at Michigan, the Illinois game. I don't think Wisconsin's going to be very good this year, but that's never an easy place to go play, especially going cross country there. So I mean, I'm a little more optimistic than you. This, like I said, this is kind of my big sleeper team this year in the Big Ten. I think is Washington. So I think their worst case is 8-4. I think the worst case is they just lose to the 4 games that they may not be big favorite. They lose to Michigan, Illinois, Ohio State, and Oregon. They lose to 4 really good teams, 4 teams that have playoff aspirations this year, and they win the other games. That's, to me, is the worst case, is that they don't actually get any of those 4 top 20 caliber teams on their schedule, but that they beat everybody else. I think that's the worst case. So I've got them with a fairly narrow range there of 8 to 10 wins. And yeah, I'm going to ballpark them. I'm just going to split the difference. I think they're going to I think this is a 9-3 team this year. I really do. I really think this is a 9-win team this year. I think they're going to, my guess is they scare Ohio State, but don't win. They scare Oregon, but don't win. and then they split the Michigan Illinois back to back there. That's my best guess on how the season plays out. So I've got them as a 9-win team, but somewhere between 8 and 10 wins. Chip, any parting thoughts on anything we've discussed or the Washington Huskies this year?
I'm just excited to see Damon Williams. I mean,
Yes.
This is a guy that I think the Big Ten fans that haven't either paid attention or just haven't heard of him. I think he's going to be a guy that is going to become more and more on the mouths and minds of Big Ten football fans, definitely by midseason.
There are so many potential breakout players in the Big Ten this year, which is quite frankly an episode we need to do here.
Yeah.
Once we're done with our previews, we should do our breakout players in the Big Ten this year. But there are so many good candidates across the conference. But I'm with you. I think Damon Williams has a chance to kind of ascend from a guy like, I guarantee you there are like Ohio State fans that we talk. I guarantee you there are Ohio State fans who don't know Damon Williams.
Mm-hmm. Oh, easily.
Yeah, like easily. Like they don't know, they've never heard of him. That's going to change. That's going to change in a big way. I think everyone in this conference is going to know who his name is by the end of September. But yeah, that's a great closing point. I like what I'm hearing about him and kind of what they're saying about him out there in Washington. So that'll do it for this one. This was our second. We got one more left. One more. Michigan State's up next. It's our last one. Then we'll start getting back into like breakout players, maybe our preseason like watch lists, things like that. News of the week. Big Ten Media Days starts on Tuesday. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we'll recap some of that stuff as well here at the end of the week. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming here on the channel here the next couple weeks before the season kicks off and as we get into fall camp. So stay locked in here at youtube.com/@SaturdayGlory for more coverage of the Big Ten and all of college football. We have a national college football podcast here. We've got media day coverage from all the Power 4 conferences on the channel. If you've missed any of that, check that out. But thanks everyone again for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.